Welcome to SubstanceEducation.com's audio presentation, Help for the Addicted Family. This presentation will provide a discussion of various newspaper articles having to do with the devastation of families dealing with addiction. Let's start with the Associated Press article by Lindsay Tanner, who spoke about the number of newborns in the U.S. with drug withdrawals tripling. In this article, she talks about this little 1-month-old newborn, a little girl, who now has to be given methadone to fight drug addiction withdrawals. Her mother, apparently, had been addicted to prescription painkillers. Once the mother found out she was pregnant, she had to talk to her MD to place her on a prescription of methadone treatment so that she wouldn't go into withdrawal symptoms and hurt herself or her child. What is interesting in this study that Ms. Tanner is referring to speaks to the fact that there were 1 in 1,000 babies born with opioid drug withdrawals, and in this decade it has tripled to 3 in 1,000 babies who are now dealing with opioid drug withdrawal. So what we are looking at here is the 21st century version of what was known as the crack baby epidemic of the 1980s. Weaning these babies can take weeks or months and often require a long stay in the intensive care unit of a hospital. In addition, their development may be, or often will be, impacted. Typically, birth weights are lower, breathing problems are often present, and these babies may end up having a seizure disorder. The withdrawal signs often seen by doctors and nurses who have to hook these babies up to monitors to measure heart rate and respiration. They will see that the babies have fitful sleep, they cry all night, they have trouble eating, they experience much more diarrhea than is typical. All signs of withdrawal. What's scary is that these babies may have seizures. The fact that the whole family is impacted is easy to see here. The baby ends up being in the hospital for over a month. The biological parents become estranged. The birth mother now is living back with her parents and is trying to get her life back on track. Just in this one article, this devastation of addiction is seen on 3 generations of one family. Another newspaper article that made the front page was about slayings in California. This is a true tragedy. A 23-year-old woman shot and killed her 2 toddlers, her cousin, and injured her husband before turning the gun on herself. Investigators immediately suspected methamphetamine abuse. The mother had taped herself smoking meth hours before the shooting. So what we understand is that the mother was smoking meth while supposedly taking care of her 2 toddlers. It's hard to imagine what this woman was thinking other than, I need to use. This is pure and simple addiction. and cravings are exceedingly strong when using methamphetamines. Unfortunately, with these types of tragedies, it is not unusual that drugs are involved. People who are involved with meth can get quite depressed, they can get panicky, paranoid, and dangerous. They also can have auditory and visual hallucinations that can be a trigger for behaviors including deadly actions. They demonstrate a lack of judgment. The stimulant effect of meth is 50 times stronger than that of cocaine, and the user often believes the family is out to get them, and therefore the whole family spirals out of control. In an article out of Oklahoma, a woman was charged with second-degree manslaughter after her aunt found her infant daughter in the washing machine when it became off balance. The woman had been up for 3 days using methamphetamines. The devastation of addiction within this family is horrific. We found an article from Kingman, Arizona, where a mayor's son and another teenager were arrested on drug charges after a search warrant found them growing marijuana in their home. Both teens were found to have medical marijuana cards and claimed to be able to grow marijuana under an initiative approved by the state. The issue was that they were growing more than was allowed under the initiative. So the question initially becomes, for what reason were these two young men able to get a medical marijuana card? But since they did obtain the cards, they began to grow more marijuana than was legally allowed, and, more than likely, were going to sell the excess. The initiative allowed for 5 ounces of marijuana versus the 4 pounds that was found in the home, which is quite a big difference in the amount of drugs. From this story again, we recognize the drug addiction, that it crosses all socioeconomic levels, educational levels, and family makeup. In an article out of London, we see that an extremely wealthy woman attempted to board a plane while carrying her drug stash along with her. She tried to get through the scan with crack cocaine, heroin, and a banned stimulant in her bag. The subsequent arrest led police to search her $1 million property where she lived with her husband. There, the police found more drugs, in particular, a sizable amount of cocaine. It was ultimately found that this golden couple were mired in drug addiction, even as they gave millions of dollars to agencies dealing with the treatment of addiction. So once again, in families, we see that addiction knows no class boundaries. It causes a major dysfunction and disruption in the family, and that money doesn't buy recovery. Now, certainly, all of us have read these stories before, We have heard about people who have had DUI after DUI after DUI, driving under the influence. In Nevada, a man who had received 8 DUIs was out drinking and driving again when he caused a multiple car pileup. Wouldn't you know it, but he came through the accident without a scratch, yet 4 other people were killed and a few others seriously injured. Alcoholism, in this case, created huge devastation for many families, all of which were innocent victims of one habitual alcoholic individual. Please be aware of the impact of chemicals on families as you make your way through life. Recognize how pervasive this problem is in our society. We all can be ambassadors of recovery with our friends and our family. You have completed this presentation, Help for the Addicted Families, the newspaper review. Please return to the website to complete this course.